Okay, y'all. Let's double tap this. Hopefully you can hear me. Ooh, this is very light. Move this over. Move this closer. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me. So I'm just going to scoot this a little bit closer to my mouth and my mic. So you can hear me. Okay. If you can, comment whether or not you can hear me. And I am going to put this up just a little bit better. Okay. Cool. Move my mic over to it so you guys can hear me. And I'm also going to test this out really quickly, just to see if you guys can hear me at all. Let's see. Let's see. Cool, so it sounds like you guys can hear me. That's super exciting. So, hi everybody. This is Sidney coming to you on the interwebs, and I am doing a live today, so welcome. So, I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about a couple of tech things that have been on my mind based on what people have been sending me from my survey. So thank you very much to everybody who's been sending me responses for my survey. I really appreciate that. So I'm just going to get right into it once I find my timer. Not gonna lie, I want to eat eventually, so I have my food right here, and I would like to eat that before 7 o'clock. So I'm going to put this on for, I'm gonna put it on for 35 minutes, and I'm just going to kind of time box myself for this because we went a little long last time, but I'm starting that. So what I want to talk about today, the main topic is actually the drama of resource overwhelm is what I'm calling it. So basically when you are having a bunch of resources and you're really not sure which ones to start with, which ones that you want to start looking at and going from there. And it's very interesting that a lot of people have been talking about how much they don't love having to stick to one specific resource when they're learning how to code. That's what I found out in my survey, actually. And I'm actually pulling it up now. So one of the specific responses that I got was I just really get overwhelmed with the number of resources out there and the amount of time there is to learn. And the hardest part for me is feeling like I'm learning the right things. And when you don't have a lot of people to talk to, that's just really unmotivating, and that's very challenging to stay motivated. So thank you, first off, for that. I'm going to adjust this again. This is one more time. Let me do that right. I think this is stuck. There we go. Okay, so being overwhelmed with finding a lot of resources or too many resources, I totally get that. And I think that I kind of went through just like a realization actually today about the overwhelming resources that I have in my arsenal to start learning object-oriented programming better in Java. And so kind of looking back at my resources, I get it, guys. I acknowledge that that is definitely like super irritating having to look at just the overwhelming amount of resources that you might be having. I do the extremes when it comes to like finding resources and getting that research done to find the things that I need. And so when I finally am able to kind of sit down and figure out what I want to do specifically or learn when it comes to coding, I sometimes feel like I am in the state where I'm like, oh shit, like, am I like learning the right things? Am I doing the right things? And that's actually, that's still what I'm going through with Java. Like, it's funny because today I was in my programming session with my boyfriend, and he was saying that I'm thinking too much about comparing JavaScript to Java, and that is where a lot of my problems lie when it comes to figuring out a little bit quicker, understanding the concepts of like objects being everywhere when it comes to splitting up the different methods that you have to execute things. So like you have a class and like a bunch of methods or functions to start setting what you want up, and then you might have like a class, a totally different class to actually calculate everything, to actually execute what you want. And I'm just sitting there like, that is dumb. That is so dumb to do, because I'm, again, more focused in functional programming. But I have to make that switch, and I have to be okay with being in that overwhelm and that stress of feeling like I don't know what to do next. I started thinking about learning Python forever ago. But when I started looking at Python, I realized how much there's great opportunities with Python. There's no doubt about that. But the problem is that not only am I like learning Java at work, I would be putting myself in a situation where like I would have questions for myself with Java concepts for work, and then start wondering and start researching, and then just kind of like go down that deep spiral, and then start looking at Python stuff, and then I'd just be like, fuck this, I don't want to do it on my off hours, and that's not cool. So we're going to stick to Java for now. We're going to see like how that goes, and I'm determined to figure this out, because either way, Python's an object-oriented programming language anyway, so it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter either way. With that being said, with all the resources that I have in my arsenal, and ones that I've researched and over-researched and whatever, I totally hear you guys. It's really irritating to have to look at them and wonder what's the right thing. So only you are going to be able to determine what is the right resource for you, what the right programming language is for you. And I think that it is just good to try and experiment. I still think that people should follow the 100 days of code timeline, where you break that down into smaller bits, where you're looking at concepts for 30 days, and even less than that if you need to, if you're looking at multiple resources with different languages and you don't know which ones that you want to look at. So for instance, maybe you're kind of choosing between JavaScript and Python. And I think that when it comes to looking at maybe two different resources for two different things, okay, so let's start off with what resources that I can look at. Free resources, by the way, free, F-R-E-E, because you don't want to be spending any kind of money until you actually made the commitment to whichever programming language that you want to. So look for free resources first. That means videos, that means looking at textbooks online, PDFs, different demonstrations, different live coding sessions that people do. Look for all of those free resources first. So let's say that you have those free resources. Now you're looking at Python and JavaScript. So spend a week looking at JavaScript. See if you can find places where you can start doing little coding exercises from the work that you're looking at. Maybe do that for a week. Maybe do 2 2 weeks. If you really like the materials, if you really like the concepts of JavaScript. And then if you happen to not like it, then okay, let's reflect on that. So what do I like about JavaScript? Okay, I like that for me, we have a whole bunch of different packages specifically for JavaScript that help me do shortcuts where I can import different statements, I can automatically have my semicolons like finish my statement. I really love the way that the functions look in ES6 and ES8. So there we go. What I don't like about it is that I have to assume too much about what data types are what. I don't like that. I don't like that, I don't know, it compiles like too fast or something crazy like that. I'm not sure. So if you don't like that particular language, and if you don't like those particular resources, you have to realize that as soon as you have that instinct of like, okay, not really loving this, this like really gut feeling of the like, like it's not really being unmotivated, but it kind of feels like a stressor. It really is about instinct on what your preference is to the programming language. So you really have to start questioning what that is and start following your instincts, and then really question why you might not like that resource or you might not like that specific language, and then move on. It's totally okay to break up with a resource. It's especially okay if you're breaking up with a free resource. You can literally go do a Google search or look at your arsenal and find something else. So going from there, when it comes to finding a new resource that you actually like, start growing on that. I really do believe, again, that looking into the 100 days of code or the 100 days of threads, 100 days of whatever, start time boxing your timelines and your goals in a study plan, specifically my study plan. So I will link all that stuff in the tweet or whatever below after this live session. So yeah, when you finally do like a programming language, that's when you can start focusing on whether or not you want to start paying for resources, whether or not you want to start getting into a community to start asking questions, whether or not it would be good to find a mentor in whatever that's versed in whatever programming language that you like. And again, I get it. It's incredibly, I'm starting on my computer again. It's incredibly irritating to have to feel like you don't have, that you're not learning the right things. And so let me also kind of break that down for you, because the right things, and I specifically got this question from my survey, and so what I'm assuming is what the right things are is what new and shiny things that people are talking about right now that is kind of like going with the trends, or trying to cut out all the noise and figure out what would be a guaranteed good programming language or stack to start looking into and actually make a commitment to. And so you have the choice to figure out what you want to learn. And learning the right things, I understand where you're coming from, but I really do think it's about instinct. Follow what you know, follow what you like when it comes to learning a programming language, and if you don't like it, move the fuck on. It's not going to hurt you if you decide not to learn a programming language at like whatever specific time, just because the concepts of programming is what counts. Let me say that again, the concepts of programming is what counts when you're learning how to code. It doesn't matter what type of programming language that you're coding in. So I recommend that you find a programming language that you like, so you can start like actually executing programming concepts in? Yes, 100%. It just makes it easier for you to start studying with. It makes it so much easier for you to figure out what the next steps are when it comes to finding your stack that you want to learn. Because eventually, I'm going to move this over, eventually when you start actually applying for jobs and things, the hope is that wherever you're going when it comes to a company, they're going to help you learn the other concepts that you're going to learn in the stack that they want. Hopefully, hopefully you have like a similar stack that you've already started to learn, or at least the basics on when it comes to learning. So, like, say for instance, I know JavaScript, but I am not very well versed in React. I'm more versed in Angular. So if I decide to apply for a job, maybe in this case, this Angular isn't necessarily the right thing to be learning. Well, hopefully if the company really wants me to work with them, and really wants me to work in their stack, they'll be able to start giving me more documentation or access or peer programming resources to help me learn React. That's the goal. You're not supposed to know everything, because if it's a company that really wants to keep you, that really wants you to be there, then they'll help you learn. They'll help you learn their stack. They'll help you learn how they do things when it comes to their structural design, their architectural design, and their coding practices, because companies do have their own types of practices that they want to keep for themselves to be organized and efficient. So I saw today actually a tweet by Emma Bostein. I'm so sorry if I like completely just like axed your last name. So hi, how are you? I saw today, so she had started at Spotify like a couple of weeks ago, and she said that in a tweet today, actually this morning, where Spotify had actually given her some really great resources to better learn their stack at Spotify. And so, yes, she knows computer science concepts. She has a stack where she's worked in for a very long time, I'm assuming. But at Spotify, she was able to get the job and also be able to start learning through Spotify's resources to learn their stack. So she'll know their programming practices, she'll know where their documentation is, she'll know how exactly they like for her to code, and that is the kind of companies that you're looking for. Your job is to start learning at least 1 to 2 programming languages, to start learning the concepts of programming. Again, it's not going to necessarily matter what type of programming language that you do. Maybe for different types of jobs that you're like looking for, different types of companies, it will be important. But again, I really think that I'm going to circle back and say, like, do you. If JavaScript makes you happy, great. If it doesn't make you happy, that's really too bad. I feel sorry for you. No, I don't. But try to figure out. Try to figure out what programming language that you like, because oh no, at the end of the day, it is going to be super important for you to figure out what you like to learn and what you like about the programming language that you're learning. So that is one thing that I wanted to talk about. I'm also going to go online again, and I cannot believe this. The whole, like, my window over here, like, it's just super big and super bright, but like the sun is coming at an angle where like it's coming through the blind, so this is so dumb. Having to maneuver today is ridiculous. So I'm actually, okay, I'm gonna use a little neat trick. I'm going to move everything over. And maybe this will work if I like get on my couch. No, it didn't. Okay, then that's fine. I'm just going to move over here. Okay, that's so much better. Hopefully you guys can like still see me and my bed and my fun furniture and everything. So, okay, I am also going to again look at, I'm gonna put my food over here as well. It's been a long day, guys. I woke up like not feeling the greatest, so we're just gonna keep going with this momentum and then I can eat. And hopefully you are also having a fairly good and productive day. There we go. Okay, I'll just put my mic in the shot as well. So hi. I really love this Blue Yeti mic, so I'm just going to keep this right here. Okay, so the next concept that I kind of want to look at, I had another question actually about, let's see, never knowing enough, yes, to submit an application. I wrote a thread about this a couple of days ago, and I can also link that down below in the Twitter, in my Twitter feed, my Twitter post, whatever. So this particular person is concerned about never feeling like they know enough to even submit an application for a job. So let me tell you something. This is actually something that I learned from my coach the other day, is that she actually called me out on this a couple of weeks ago, actually, in a post where she was like, you know, your competition is not giving a shit about like how consistent that they are. They are trying to put out perfect shit. They're trying to do this, that, and the other thing, and they're just kind of doing it. Like they are taking their time to put out perfect stuff, but they aren't consistent. And so you have the advantage when it comes to being a content creator and creating imperfect shit. But you are interacting with your audience first off, and you're consistent when it comes to interacting with your audience and producing content. So you need to be consistent as much as possible and make sure that you are looking at your competition and knowing that they are trying to be perfect and trying to do this and trying to do that. So let's flip that. Let's flip that a little bit. So as a programmer, let's be honest here, like what I do like during the day, majority of the time is not coding. It never has been, and that was one of the surprising things that I didn't realize kind of going into my first job in tech, was that I would be in meetings majority of the day. Do I think that's bullshit? Yes. Because most meetings can probably be in emails, but that's like another debate for later. Somebody tweeted one day, actually, a meeting that doesn't have food is an email, and I love that. I fucking live by that because I think that's so true. Because either you're kind of like wasting my time and wasting like the space that I have when it comes to like figuring out what like I need to do, just wasting other people's time in general when it could have been like summarized in an email. I'm digressing. So you have to think about what experience that you see kind of day to day with people when it comes to programming. So like when you see a day in the life of a software engineer, or videos like that on YouTube, or how people describe their day, a lot of people say that they're in meetings. I'd say about 50% of my day is meetings, and then another like 30% is me asking people about shit that I don't know in Java. And then another 20% is like actually like trying to figure it out maybe by myself or on Google or like Stack Overflow or something. And then maybe the rest of the time is when I'm actually trying to figure out what I'm doing when it comes to coding concepts. And that's like that's a very small percentage of me like actually writing code on my own. So when it comes to not feeling like you know enough, I think, and I get into this trap all the time where I don't feel like I know enough. You know enough to be dangerous to your competition. But the thing is that you have to make that step. You have to make that first step to actually go for it. Because how can you know that you know enough for the job if you don't apply for it? So you've already ousted yourself from an opportunity by assuming you're making an assumption about yourself and what your knowledge is, based on feeling like, in this vast cosmos, you need to know everything when it comes to JavaScript or Python or whatever. And so let me tell you something. When it comes to your competition, they don't give a fuck about applying for that job. They have already done it, and they have already potentially gotten in the room with interviewers, and they don't know half the shit that you do. So what makes you think that you don't have the stuff to even apply? Because there are other people that are doing it and don't know as much. And they had that opportunity to just get in the room. That's all that you want at this point, is to try and figure out how you can refine your resume. You can make sure that you sound competent, first off, on your resume, with as many projects that you've made, complete or incomplete, being able to explain what you've done, what you have tried to progress with and had roadblocks, what your experience is, which may not be any experience, but again, there are plenty of people out there that are able to just go in there with heads held high, with not as much experience, or one less project, or one less course or class that they've taken, and they're still able to get in the room. Maybe they're accepted in a position, maybe they're not. But the other thing that a lot of people need to realize when it comes to thinking that they don't know enough, when it comes to applying for that job, is that you don't need to know enough. You don't need, there's no gauge for what you need to know. I want to be able to say this in a competent way, because yes, you should know at least a little bit. You should have some experience when it comes to programming and things, when it comes to looking for jobs. But there's no, if the company is really wanting to work with you, and if you are able to show them that you are willing to learn and do the work, there isn't too much of a gauge. You want to be able to know the basics of programming. Again, the basics of programming, normally it shouldn't really matter what language that you're trying to program in, or your preference. Hopefully you will go find a JavaScript job and apply for that, instead of JavaScript, but oh, I'm just going to learn Python, or just go and seek a Python job. I hope that's actually making sense, or that's the context that you're understanding about this. So what I'm saying is that there's no hard gauge, and there's no hard gauge to what you need to know or learn to just apply. And let's say that you do get an interview, just you're getting a foot in the door, based on maybe you have 2 or 3 projects, maybe one's complete and 2 aren't, or you took a boot camp and you're sitting there and they're kind of looking at your experience and things. You've been able to tell them that you've gone to a coding boot camp. You've been able to kind of explain to them what you've been doing when it comes to your projects. And maybe they ask you about a concept that you don't know. Hopefully you have done the work to start looking at the concepts that they may be wanting, and that you don't know about. So you can say in the interview that I don't know about XYZ. I haven't worked or have experience of working with XYZ. However, I am willing to learn it because I know the basic concepts through ABCD. You want to make sure that you're letting interviewers know that you are willing to do the work to be taught, They want a person that is a sponge. They want to have somebody absorb that information and not be so rigid about what concepts that need to be learned for their stack, for their documentation, for their principles, their however they are deciding to code in their stack, whatever stack that it is. Hopefully companies will have the documentation, have the resources to teach you. And that's, in my experience, that has happened where I came in, I said that I knew JavaScript, I said that I knew how to use Node, I knew how to use GitHub, I knew how to use this, that, and the other things, I know about my IDEs. The thing was is that I didn't really know about any test automation concepts, but my company was like, we are willing to teach you if you're willing to learn. So what do you know about automation concepts? What do you know about smoke testing? What do you know about different tools that you would need for systems like RaiderX or whatever. These are just like other tools and concepts that aren't really relevant to this. However, my point being is that I understood what they were looking for when it came to the job description. I started researching and looking at those concepts to see what I knew and what I didn't know. And when they asked me those concepts, I was able to say, okay, this is what I know, and this is what I don't know, but I'm willing to find out because I know these parts of this concept. I know the basics and basic requirements of this concept. So, again, it's really not about knowing enough for somebody else's expectations. You're putting an outside expectation on yourself when you just really want to focus on that programming language that first off makes you happy, that fills you with joy, that doesn't want to make you throw your computer as much because you're going to want to do that anyways. Finding one that makes you happy, finding the resources that make you happy, and be comfortable with having a specific timeline, a hard timeline for free resources when you're trying to research what programming language that you like, and then an even harder timeline, to be honest, when it comes to finding resources and experimenting with paid ones, because you don't want to waste money on feeling unmotivated from a resource that you don't like. So that's my 2 cents there. But also feeling like you don't know enough to apply for a position, just go for it. If you have, I read this in an article the other day on this website called In Her Sight, that if you have at least 60% of the requirements that people are looking for when it comes to job descriptions, there should be no reason why you are axing yourself already from the game. You should just apply, go for it, and then start researching the concepts that you don't know. So you can matter-of-factly say that you don't know, but you know the basic concepts because of these and be able to explain them clearly. So, yeah, that is my 2 cents on not knowing enough and feeling the drama of overwhelm when it comes to resources. I'm actually going through that right now. I realized I'll talk a little bit about this as well since we're here and since I hopefully can be eating sometime soon in maybe 10 minutes. Today I was looking at my study plan and if you guys follow me on my 100 Days of Code thread, you'll know that I'm actually going through Udacity's Java Nano Degree program. And so I had started off, of course, with my resources for Angie Jones's Test Automation University Java programming course. That was a mouthful. And I really liked that, and I have kept going back to it just to make sure that I'm understanding what concepts of programming that maybe I need to freshen up on or get a little bit more information on and whatnot. And then I went through Launch Code's textbook for Java programming, and for reasons, because I don't like textbooks, I decided to use that as maybe a reference resource instead. So just kind of keeping it off to the side because it's valuable, but having to read a textbook when I'm like taking physical notes, like on my computer and things, like no. It's just very inconvenient for me, and it's not for my learning. It's not my learning preference. And now that I have decided to do research on this Udacity course, I realized that there was a lot of doubt kind of going into looking at this nano degree program. And so one of the things that I had noticed about the nano degree program is that they had asked for at least the basics, knowing the basics of Java concepts. And I was like, okay, like, wait a minute. Do I know enough to like actually like take this course? And so for days I just like sat on it and was like, oh shit, like I don't think that I know enough. Maybe I need to go back through Angie's course, or maybe I need to like go through Launch Code's course and see like whether or not I need to go through that, and then maybe I'll feel better about this and blah blah blah. And so I had talked to my boyfriend about it, and he was looking over the course because he's dangerous enough in Java where I feel comfortable with asking questions, and he was going through the concepts that they were talking about in the intro to Java programming for Udacity's course. So how they did it is that the nano degree recommended this introduction to Java programming course to like look as a prerequisite, and then they were like, yeah, then after that, like, maybe you should be ready to, like, actually take this course. And I was like, so, like, I took Angie's course, so would this be sufficient to actually start? And he was like, oh, yeah, like, this should be fine. Like, this is talking about exactly what I'm looking at, like, in the course that they're referring to. Maybe your course that you took is in more detail, but like you'll figure that out a little bit later, and you can always go back to it. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Let's try it then. So then I realized that as soon as I was getting into like introduction to Spring Boot and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, this is good. This is making me nervous. Like, let's actually just like go through the concepts of like introduction to Java programming or whatever, and they'll start like. Maybe I'll have a different perspective of object-oriented programming as well. And I realized that there's a lot of stuff that I already do know, and even today I was talking to him, and I had coded an example for him about like static, the non-access modifier, and he was like, you know this, like, why are you like kind of upset right now? And I was just like, because I feel like I don't know anything, and it just still feels like nothing is clicking. And I was just kind of irritated where I was looking at, why is there like a string parameter here, and why does everything have to be fucking objects and blah 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 and boo-hoo. And he was just like, look, you know way more than you think that you do, and the problem is that you keep comparing, oops, I fell asleep. You keep comparing Java to JavaScript when you know better. You know better, but he said that maybe it's just because of like how you learned it. That might be the case on like why you're having so much resistance to trying to learn a bit better and execute a little bit better and thinking critically about it, because there's just so much like you're learning something that's new, and you're learning just kind of everywhere. You're trying to make sure that you're learning at work as well as you're learning at home and different things. And so a lot, like, I know this shit. I do know how to set up classes. I do know how to execute constructors, like different classes. I know how to start setting up everything on the back end so I can start rendering a JSP file for Java. And so he was like, you need to stop that and just like kind of go for it, and go for the course. There's no reason to stop you're learning so far, and if you need to go back and like look at other concepts, you can do that. The whole point is to not stress yourself out to where you're overwhelmed and you don't want to work on the course. And I think that was exactly what I was doing. I started to like avoid having to like look more into like why I was a little irritated with like introduction to spring, and so or spring boot, spring boot, spring boot, spring boot. So yeah, just that was an interesting realization today that I am still on my bullshit and I need to figure that out. So we're going to figure out what I can do this week to change that, because I believe that day 60 of my 100 days of code is like at the end of this week or early next week. So I think that this is the time to just go for it. And if I need assistance looking at some other concepts that I'm like, oh, I don't understand, or this or that or whatever, then I can always go back and look at my other resources as a reference. Maybe read a passage. Maybe read a passage. Maybe look at some other videos and then move on with my life. And hopefully that will be sufficient enough to go through what else I need to do for this nano degree. And if I continue through the course and just realize that, man, I really don't like this course for whatever reason, and I've examined it enough and given myself justifiable reasons as to why I don't like the Udacity nano degree, then I can always stop. That is not the intention and that is not the goal. I am really hoping that because these are video and project-based courses where you have a bunch of lectures, you have a bunch of coding exercises, and projects at the end of each module, then I'll feel better about what my coding experience is when it comes to like looking at these things. So it's time for me to stop bullshitting about like what I actually want to do when it comes to this course. And so I was looking, and I was on the waiting list for this course for months. So there's no reason for me to like, okay, now my foot is back. There's no reason for me to be hesitant about like taking it now, because I have this free trial and I have the opportunity to look more into deeper concepts of Java programming when it comes to microservices, when it comes to better behavioral driven development. And this is, if this shit is way over your head, it like the concepts, like the specific concepts don't matter. I was in a state of overwhelm and didn't realize it because I was hesitant. I was hesitant because I feel like, again, I don't know everything or anything about Java, and that's not the case. And so don't be like me. You know what you're doing. You may not know everything, but you at least are dangerous enough to start figuring out or solving the problem. You are smart, you are capable of doing really great things with what you know, with the knowledge that you do know. And so I really hope that this live helped at least some people kind of reflect on what you need to focus on when it comes to getting that resource that you need. And then also just going on ahead and just applying for that job. Because honest to God, what is a company going to do? Not call you? Like, they do that all the time to people, and not just because like you don't know enough for them, but because they lose your application, or like they close an application because they realize they don't need somebody or whatever. There can be a billion reasons why they decided not to pick you for an interview. That doesn't matter. Don't put yourself out of the game because you feel like you don't know enough. Start examining what you know and what you don't know, and then just go for it anyways, because that's just the first step. And also your competition is not as experienced as you, doesn't know as much as you, and they're applying for it anyways. They are doing their best with the knowledge that they know, and they don't give a shit, and they're just going to go for it and see what happens. And you know what? They get their feet in the door, and they're able to get into those interviews. They may be able to do some of the work. They may not be able to. And some people, if they are disciplined enough and know that they can just say, I don't know, but I know these concepts, I'm willing to learn, they get the job. So why can't you? Honestly, why couldn't you? So don't be discouraged. You're going to be fine. And I am always here to assist anybody who wants to talk on a consult call, whoever wants to find a little bit of time in their schedule to ask me questions. If you need some inspiration when it comes to figuring out better resources, I am definitely your girl to do so. So yeah, make sure that you schedule a consult call with me. Make sure that you watch my YouTube videos, because I have some great content that's going to be coming out talking just like this, where we're going to be talking about some more concerns and roadblocks that people have when it comes to figuring out ways to code, because there's a lot of worry and a lot of stress that people are going through right now with trying to figure out their next step, which is in some cases their first step when it comes to learning how to code. And I want to be able to help mitigate that, because I went through the same thing and I'm still going through the same things. I'm still a baby dev, and you're a baby dev too. We're all baby devs in our own way. Even the most experienced person that's been like doing Java and C and R for 10 years, they may not know this JavaScript crap, and so they have to be that baby dev again and learn it all over again. And none of the worry that you don't know something should stop you from applying for the job or finding the resource that's right for you. So give yourself that space to start experimenting, start playing with what you like. When you find that resource, and when you find that language that gives you joy, run with it. Run with it, start researching more, start doing more, start interacting with the community more, do projects, do work with a friend, ask people, ask your teachers, and when you have a project or 2 or 3, start applying, because you never know what's going to happen. And if companies really do want junior developers, they want a sponge. They want to know that you are able to learn, and they want to know that you know programming concepts, not necessarily a specific programming language, though that helps. Hopefully you're going for a job that matches whatever programming language that you learned, but it's about absorbing the stack and the knowledge that they have to give you and going from there. Knowing what you know, and then knowing what you don't know, knowing the difference, and being willing to absorb what they have to teach you, and being humble and willing enough to say, I don't know, and going from there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Go subscribe to my channel. I have my Twitter and Instagram, of course. If you guys are following, follow me there. I also, oh my goodness, I have my lives here. I have my website that's open. I have a couple of blog posts there. And also for other exclusive content, for more detailed articles and resources and things that I like to share with my audience, go subscribe to my email list. That's really important for you guys to subscribe there, because I'm always giving exclusive content there first before anybody else sees it when it comes to online digital content, digital resources. You can see those specific resources first, and then maybe I'll do a video about it, or answer your questions and things through threads and these live sessions. But yeah, that's just a different way to connect with me. So please follow me, and I hope that you enjoyed this live session this week. And I'm also going to post a recording on my YouTube channel, so if you ever want to reference it, you can go to my my YouTube channel, as well as find it in my lives through Twitter and Periscope. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great evening. Have a very happy week. I will see you guys next week in a live session, and make sure that whenever I post about my live sessions on the content that you guys want to hear, make sure that you ask your questions. If you need to DM me about them because it's a little private, that's okay. You don't have to have your username out there for everybody to see on what stuff that you want to talk about. But I'm here, and I really want to know what more you guys want to see here. So yeah, let's go from there. Let's talk. Let's figure it out, and let's have a live session or a thread or a YouTube video or an email about whatever you want to talk about. So yeah, I am all on the interwebs, and I will post all of my links really soon. So thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you later. Bye.